Welcome to the Rich Report, a podcast with news and information on high-performance computing. Today, my guest is Ken Claffey. Ken is at Xyratex. He's the Senior Director for the newly formed ClusterStor business line. So welcome to the show, Ken.
Hey, thanks, Rich. Great to be here.
So I guess maybe we should start at the beginning. What is the new ClusterStor business line?
So ClusterStor is actually, the business line is a culmination of a lot of activity over the last couple of years and development on Xyratex's part. Many of you may have recognized we actually acquired a company called ClusterStor in July of last year. And basically what we've done, as you'll find out, we'll talk a little bit more about it today, is really developed what we see as a next generation HPC focused storage solution. And actually that's what we're announcing today.
Terrific. So I've got your slides up here. Do you want to go through those?
Sure. I think we kind of start with, for many people who may not know, who exactly are Xyratex. So again, let me start with that. So actually, Xyratex, we're a large company. We actually did $1.6 billion in revenue last year. But again, while many people may not know us, one of the reasons is really actually we're the largest OEM disk storage provider. So most people will have Xyratex-based technology and storage subsystems within their data centers today. But more than likely, it's someone else's name on the front of it. You may not necessarily recognize it Xyratex, but rest assured we're there underneath the covers. We're a company that's been established for over 25 years, a public company. You may be surprised to know that actually 19% of all worldwide enterprise storage capacity was actually shipped through Xyratex's factories in 2010. That's actually over 3 exabytes of storage capacity shipped to the end user market through our OEM customers. Additionally, within Xyratex, there's actually 2 divisions. There's one division, which is where I reside, which is the Network Storage Systems Division, or NSS. The other division is actually SI, and that stands for Storage Infrastructure. SI actually designs, develops, manufactures, and supports capital disk drive test equipment. So if you've ever had the pleasure, Rich, of going through any of the large disk drive manufacturers, you'll see these massive automated test beds that literally every disk drive manufacturer goes through one of these test beds. They're actually over 50% of them are actually Xyratex test beds from our sister SI division. So we really have a really deep understanding of disk drive technology and specifically disk drive reliability. As a company, we employ over 2,000 employees. We're truly global. We've got manufacturing in the 3 main geos, Asia Pac, US, and Europe, and R&D, quite frankly, spread out throughout the world. And we have a strong track record of success. We've actually had a 10-fold revenue increase and grown consistently since 2000. A little bit of background on the next slide, Rich, about Xyratex and HPC. So again, not many people may know the Xyratex name, but we've actually been, through our OEM partners, supplying it to HPC for many years indeed. Last year, in 2010, when we shipped over 3 exabytes of storage capacity, our own internal estimates are that approximately 25% of that was deployed in HPC, or you might say HPC-like environments. For our OEM partners, obviously, we bring the core capabilities of really understanding storage technologies, 25 years of extensive experience, extensive patent portfolios, etc., etc. Strong track record of overcoming what are the tough storage integration challenges. And as we talk about HPC, I think integration challenges are something that's near and dear to everyone's heart. And one of the things that we really did some 2.5 years ago was start to make some strategic investments to strengthen our HPC market position. Many of them building new capabilities and developing new technology, both hardware and software, and indeed extending our product breadth and scale. Perhaps one of the most notable parts of that strengthened activity, if we touch on the next slide, Rich, was actually, as I mentioned earlier, the acquisition of ClusterStor. Many of you may not know, ClusterStor was a startup founded by the inventor of Lustre, Dr. Peter Bram. Peter had a highly skilled team of file system developers and architects, and we acquired that company in July of last year. Really, the acquisition was the culmination of several months of working together. Both Xyratex and ClusterStor really had a shared vision for where we thought the HPC storage should go. And as a result of that, we really decided to bring the 2 companies together. What that really brought to Xyratex in addition to our kind of core capabilities of the OEM business model, really understanding enterprise and being able to develop, design, manufacture, qualify, test, support enterprise class storage subsystems, it really brought a real depth of HPC expertise and world-class file system expertise, development and architecture as well. So one of the things that Xyratex has is really, as core of our DNA, is one of the reasons why so many of their world-class OEMs rely upon Xyratex for their storage systems is really our proven commitment, ongoing commitment to quality and testing of all our storage systems. And really we're bringing that core capability and expertise to Lustre as well. And when Peter's come on board together with the team, Peter actually now heads up all software development within Xyratex, not just file systems. He's probably got approximately 150 people reporting to him worldwide. And indeed, we didn't stop just with the ClusterStor acquisition. We've continued to extend the capabilities of our team, perhaps most notably Peter Bojanic, who most recently, prior to joining Xyratex, obviously ran Lustre development at support at Sun and then subsequently at Oracle. And now Peter Bojanic heads up our Lustre development and support organization. I've mentioned Lustre quite a bit, and many of your users, Rich, I think, who has been following a lot of the coverage as to what's going on in the overall Lustre community. Despite many of the concerns in terms of some of the changing dynamics within the Lustre community, Lustre continues, as I think we all know, to go from strength to strength. If you look at some of the market growth numbers from 2009 to 2010, you can see that Lustre adoption is continuing to grow. One of the things that we were very happy with, and I think, Rich, you were there covering it when we were at the Lustre user group back in April, was that the three main Lustre community entities and organizations have come together, both in HPCFS, OpenSFS, and EOFS in Europe. I think we're really heartened to see that community come together, really speaking more with a singular voice. I think that we're already seeing with the tight collaboration with the upcoming 2.1 release, that Lustre is going to have a very strong basis of vendors in the community collaborating, working together to continue to drive Lustre roadmap, not only for the coming year, but for many years to come. So moving on to the next point, as we've talked a lot about Lustre and the positives in terms of the community and roadmap continuing to progress, one of the things that people often talk about with Lustre is maybe some of the what we kind of call pain points, right? Typically, if you're buying a Lustre system today, because it's made up of multiple discrete building blocks, actually finding out what you need to meet your performance requirements, speccing that in both from a end user perspective and indeed from a vendor perspective is pretty complex. There's a lot of different options, a lot of different part numbers. It can literally take someone who actually pretty much knows what they're doing. It's still a multi-hour. Indeed, sometimes it can take days to kind of figure that out. And also, when you get the system, you've got to go through the on-site software installation. The out-of-box experience is really not great. It can take you, certainly best case scenario, days to really get the system up and running reliably, getting the performance that you require. Indeed, often it takes several weeks of performance tuning to meet acceptance tests. And then obviously setting up clients, stuff like that can be very complicated. And then as your system is up and running, expanding your cluster, and just really completing the actual acceptance test, again, something that we've even seen from talking with our partners and end users, it's not something that can take weeks. In many cases, it takes several months. And obviously that causes problems both for OEM vendors, for end users, for everyone involved in bringing up these HPC storage clusters. So with those pain points in mind, that's really kind of the basis for how we actually approached the whole concept of what we wanted to do with what we're now announcing, which is the ClusterStor 3000 product, which really we kind of believe will form the basis of the future for HPC storage. So without further ado, let's talk about that, Rich. So if you look at the overview slide there, really what we've brought together is an industry-leading next-generation HPC storage solution. It delivers over 20 gigabytes a second file system performance per rack. That gives you industry-leading performance, both from performance for a given capacity, for a given density, and for a given power envelope. From a density perspective, we actually have over 672 drives in a standard 42U rack, and we'll be supporting the highest capacity drives that are available. From a scalability perspective, it's a really nice story, Rich, and I think we'll touch on this in more detail. The system can actually really scale linearly, scaling to 30 petabytes and over 1 terabyte a second performance. From a reliability perspective, again, this is something that's near and dear to Xyratex's DNA. One of the things that I mentioned, particularly from our expertise from our SI division, we really deeply understand disk drive and overall system reliability. And that's the capability that we're able and functionality that we've been able to bring into this product. One of the things that's really key is ease of management. So we have an extensive, comprehensive management platform. As we like to say, everything in this platform, from the lowest level of the SaaS infrastructure, power supplies, all those kind of nasty things that can cause problems within the storage enclosures themselves, all the way up to every layer of the stack. Right the way up to Lustre cluster management, not just managing a single, scalable storage unit or storage node, but managing many nodes, hundreds of nodes throughout your storage and cluster, is all done through a single integrated management framework, which actually has a single administrative view, in which you can view and take action on everything within your storage cluster. So we move on to the next slide. Let me talk a little bit about how we're kind of changing the approach here to how you scale systems within a HPC and indeed overall cluster environment. So if you look at the next slide, Rich, you kind of look at the traditional approach. One of the problems with the traditional approach is you're taking these kind of ad hoc components or discrete building blocks and trying to create your storage cluster. You've got your standard servers, which are, of course, your OSS Lustre software is running. Those servers are in turn connected to a high-speed compute fabric, whether that's in a 10 gig E, 40 gig E, or indeed InfiniBand. Those servers themselves, as the acting OSSs, are directly connected to a high-speed interconnect. Again, it could be fiber channel, it could be InfiniBand, it might even be SAS, to what's traditionally a RAID couplet or a RAID head, RAID controllers. And those RAID controllers then in turn are directly connected to typically through a SAS interface to a high-density, high-capacity expansion JBODs. Now, as you build out those JBODs, very quickly you get to a point, Rich, where you're adding more and more spindles. So I'm adding more and more capacity, but I'm not necessarily adding more performance, because somewhere further up along the line there's a bottleneck, whether it's in one of the connections to the RAID controllers, whether it's within those RAID controllers themselves, the PCI Express bandwidth, memory bandwidth, CPU, SAS connectivity, or indeed whether it's in the front end in terms of connecting up to the OSS servers themselves. Again, it may be the memory bandwidth, CPU bandwidth, or network bandwidth. So very quickly, the result of that is you get the bottlenecks. The result of that today is, with a typical industry-leading configuration, we estimate, based on data, that you can get about 5 gigabytes a second rack-level performance. And that's not raw block. I'd say that's Lustre-level performance. But our approach is kind of fundamentally different, Rich. So what we're actually doing is taking all those building blocks, so your servers, your RAID controllers, your high-density, high-capacity, high-performance kind of JBODs, and all the interconnects, all the latency, all the protocols that connect those discrete building blocks, are actually collapsing them, bringing them together into a single integrated scalable storage unit. And the benefit of that, Rich, quite simply is this, is as you add more scalable storage units, not only am I adding more disk drive capacity, more spindles, I'm adding more network I/O ports, I'm adding more compute, I'm adding more memory, and a really well-proportioned, well-balanced, highly efficient system. The result of that is, as I scale out my storage cluster, I'm scaling it linearly. The benefits of that is, if you look from a rack-level perspective, you can get over 20 gigabytes a second Lustre-level throughput performance per rack. And then as you want to build out your storage cluster, you simply add more scalable storage units. So on the next slide, one of the things that is really important, I think, when anyone's talking about a new product, despite the fact that we're talking the slides here, is to say that it's not just slideware, right? We've actually been providing units into some of our early beta sites. Many units have gone into our OEM partners, where the evaluations are in progress. We've also delivered a number of units to what we kind of refer to as end users, or some of our early partners. And University of Florida is one of those partners. We actually installed the system back in February earlier this year. I think, Rich, we certainly invite you to talk with some of those partners, some of our colleagues at the University of Florida to get their idea of the feedback of the system. But system's been operating, excellent performance, and working really reliably. We've also deployed a system at the Cambridge HPC Centre of Excellence at Cambridge University. Again, that was also installed in early February, and the system has been up and running there for several months, delivering really great performance. I think one of the things that both those partners have noted is that the out-of-box experience has been really good. Literally from the system arriving at their dock, being unpacked to being up and running, delivering hundreds of terabytes of capacity and gigabytes per second of performance was less than 4 hours. And we'll be rolling out a more extensive beta program as we sample more and more of these systems throughout the summer. So one of the pieces that you kind of say the special sauce here is on the next slide, which is really a ClusterStor manager. So this is part of the magic, really. As I said, one of the great things about our system is, everything from the hardware and software stack has been specifically designed and optimized, qualified, integrated. But the ClusterStor manager is really what brings that all together. All that deep system diagnostics and manageability makes that available to the administrator, makes it visible as to what's going on within the cluster. One of the things that we really focused on, as I said, is making this out-of-box experience second to none. So literally you have single button configuration installation of not only the software within your storage cluster or within your single node, but actually rolling that out through your entire Lustre storage cluster, literally through your this single pane of glass. Everything within the storage cluster is represented, and as I said, literally using a wizard, within a couple of clicks, you can have everything within your storage cluster, all provisioned, everything all up and running, and literally, as I said, generating, showing petabytes of capacity and gigabytes per second performance. So gone are the days when it takes you literally, days to get your cluster up and running. Literally, you can be up and running within hours. One of the other important points here covered on the next slide, Rich, is actually once you've got your system installed, up and running, giving you predictable, stable performance, you want to make sure that performance and stability continues over time. And that's why we've actually got extensive monitoring. Again, everything from the deepest layer within the storage enclosure all the way up to representing everything that's going on at the macro level view of your entire storage cluster. All the error logging, everything from a single node to across the storage cluster is all integrated into a single management node, and that is represented, which by the way is high availability, and that is a consistent team throughout this product. There's no single point of failure. Everything is truly enterprise class. But again, everything is integrated into that single pane of glass. All the error system logs, everything that's going on, consolidated into one single view. There's email alerts. There's actually a single button function that you can submit all your error logs, everything to online into Bugzilla. You can also do root cause diagnostics. So one of the things when we talk a lot about end users is you see your Lustre cluster performance kind of tail off, but you're not sure why. One of the things that we're able to do again by bringing this integrated hardware and software stack is that you can, we like to say, kind of peel back the onion and kind of look at from a top level where your performance has kind of dived off. Maybe it's in particular OSS, but you're able to peel back the onion and find out exactly, is it a particular drive, is it a CPU problem, exactly why is my performance dropped off, and then be able to take corrective actions. Maybe you need to power cycle an individual drive. You're able to do all that through the management interface. One of the things that's important as well is to be able to have a non-disruptive rolling upgrade service, and that's something that we've integrated into our ClusterStor management framework as well. So you take all this together, Rich, on the next slide, so that the value proposition of that distributed processing architecture, and taking all those discrete building blocks, having them tightly integrated, optimized and qualified, and then you pull all that together with this overall management framework. And you look at those pain points that we talked about before, and then you see the benefits of this ClusterStor system. So the configuration ordering is nice and simple. You don't have to worry about a myriad of part numbers and a myriad of trying to balance different OSS servers, interconnects, RAID controllers, JBOD. That's all integrated into a single optimized scalable storage unit, And literally, as I continue to say, as you want to scale your storage cluster, you can simply add more scalable storage units, which is, by the way, a single part number. Everything is all the software is factory installed. Again, we're really focused on trying to make the out-of-box experience here second to none. Literally, you will get these systems, and they will be up. Your storage cluster will be up and running in less than 4 hours. And again, we're doing a lot of work within our factory, both on a system configuration, performance, validation, and performance tuning, such that, again, when the system comes out, it's going to deliver the performance that you're expecting from your overall cluster. On the next slide, kind of summarizing this, kind of bringing it together in terms of Xyratex's kind of overall value proposition of what we feel we can bring to the HPC market. You've kind of got our core benefits of kind of Xyratex's core DNA, right? We do absolutely, industry-leading enterprise-class storage subsystems. Allied to that, extensive Linux operating system expertise, the world-class cluster file system expertise that we brought together with Peter Brown and his team from the ClusterStor acquisition, and then we have the ClusterStor Manager that we developed. You bring all this together, you have industry-leading performance, coupled with industry-leading ease of use, great scalability that is inherent in the Lustre architecture, and then leveraging Xyratex's core DNA of enterprise-class quality, reliability, availability, and serviceability of your system. So that kind of gives you, in a nutshell, Rich, an overview of what we're actually announcing today. Certainly would love to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thanks for that, Ken. I did want to ask you, we hear this term appliance a lot, and that's the descriptive term you're using. What makes this solution an appliance?
Rich, I do agree. I think that is a term we see used a lot. So perhaps let me clarify at least what our view is. So we have developed a purpose-built, engineered solution specifically for the needs of HPC. It completely integrates not only from a hardware perspective, but also from a software perspective, including the entire software stack. And what you're really seeing there is that we're moving away from these ad hoc architectures that really rely on those discrete building blocks that are so prone to stability problems, which are typically caused by, quite frankly, a myriad of opportunities that exist for incompatibility within the overall storage cluster. In our engineered solution, every layer of that hardware and software stack is integrated, optimized, and extensively tested and supported. So this storage cluster infrastructure can then be managed through that single management framework and indeed in a single pane of glass administrative interface. So really our whole premise here has been really to address those pain points that we talked about earlier, that difficulty installing all the software elements and bringing the system up, getting it to run both efficiently and stably over time. So what we really believe is an appliance should be tight integration, qualification at every layer that enables the customer to deploy a HPC storage solution, easy to deploy, provides consistently great performance, and is ongoing, easy to manage. And in our view, that's really the appliance value proposition.
So just to play devil's advocate here, Ken, coming from Sun Microsystems as I did, working on marketing for Lustre, they tried an integrated approach. I think they called it Snowbird. Why will Xyratex succeed where Sun failed?
That's a good question, Rich. Well, firstly, let me say, I think a lot of people in Sun, including yourself, Rich, and indeed many of the people within the Lustre team, quite frankly, many of whom are now my colleagues at Xyratex, really had the right idea. But I think, as maybe perhaps you pointed out, we're not able to fulfill that vision. At Xyratex, as I said, where we may be unknown in some respects to many of the end users, we are actually the largest OEM supplier of enterprise-class storage systems in the world. And, we've been successfully designing, developing, and manufacturing our own systems for over 30 years. So we are really singularly focused on storage, have a long track record of successfully bringing innovative new storage technologies to market. And we really leverage that unique bundle of core capabilities in standards-based enterprise-class storage subsystems, x86 application servers, systems diagnostics, data protection. Indeed, allied to the IP and expertise we acquired through the ClusterStor acquisition last year, to really kind of put ourselves, I think, in a unique position to really be able to deliver on that promise of a Lustre-based HPC storage solution.
So one of the pain points I hear a lot at these Lustre meetings, Ken, is that the need for rigorous testing at scale, right? A lot of these bugs don't even appear until you've got massive parallelism going on, and lots of bandwidth. And is this product going to help with that?
I hear I think we're at many of the same meetings, I think, Rich, because I hear the exact same thing. So, quite frankly, I believe there's probably two aspects to that, with which our solution somewhat it really addresses. So firstly, let me just frankly say, I think any HPC-focused storage system will require rigorous testing at scale. HPC is really all about, at its highest end, pushing the envelope, right, getting absolute maximum performance. And I really think that's why we've really been focused on extensively testing our systems at scale, both internally, but quite frankly, also working with major HPC centers as our partners in our test process to do just that. I think the other point that's maybe more specific to our solution that's really worth making is that as we are integrating all the technologies by design, right, we firmly believe that the probability of having a more performant and stable overall storage cluster at scale is really significantly increased by having really reliable base building blocks. Our scalable storage units being really well integrated and extensively tested. Like so many things, I think you've got to have a solid foundation in order to move forward. I think that's really what our integrated scalable storage unit provides. So then when you're really building on top of that solid foundation, which is already that foundation which has been extensively tested, then that really enables you with a greater probability of success for testing your system at scale, such that the building block itself is solid. And then as you're adding more and more building blocks, again, it's logical that you have a much higher probability of success for having stability at scale. You're always going to have problems, right, that only kind of present themselves at scale. But I think by having a solid foundation, you're going to mitigate a lot of the problems that are really plaguing today's systems that are made from those kind of discrete building blocks that have so many, as I said, myriad of opportunities for incompatibility that really, when you have a large number of systems, the probability of those incompatibilities arising is obviously increased. I think with our integrated solid foundation of the scalable storage unit, I think we'll see more and more stability even at scale.
So will you be selling this product directly, or is it strictly through the OEMs?
Oh, good question. Another good question, Rich. So, actually, no, we will not be selling this product directly. We did that, Rich. So, good question, Rich. And no, we will not be selling this product directly. Xyratex always has and will continue to be an OEM supplier. So the product will be available later this year through our OEM partners. We are, however, more than happy to work directly with end users to understand their needs, assist with helping them define architectures for optimal HPC storage configurations, and quite frankly, generally to answer any questions that they may have on our HPC storage technologies. And indeed, Rich, we will be at ISC coming up in Hamburg next week doing just that. So really welcome people to ask any member of the Xyratex team any questions about our storage technologies. Happy to work with anyone.
Okay, Ken. Well, it sounds like we won't be seeing the Xyratex logo all over the place. Then is that accurate?
Yes. I think customers will become increasingly familiar with Xyratex. As I said, I think indeed, particularly in the HPC market, a lot of those people out there really know their storage technology deeply well. I think many of them know that, as I said earlier, while they may not have a Xyratex logo on many of the systems, I think many of them know from our discussions with many of them that they have Xyratex systems already in their data center. Quite frankly, I think also many people know us through our increasing involvement in the Lustre community. But as I said, quite frankly, I don't foresee a Xyratex specific logo being on the systems that people ultimately end up deploying in their data centers. We really like to leave that to our OEM partners.
Well, that's great, Ken. Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at ISC. This is kind of your coming out party, right, for for
It
Lustra.
certainly is. Yeah, we will have some of our systems actually on our stand, so we'll be demonstrating many of the benefits that we've talked about today. So again, really welcome people to come and visit on the stand. Looking forward to meeting them and showing them what our systems can do.
Very good. Well, hey, Ken, thanks for coming on the show today. Loved having you on, and I'm thinking we should check back in with you in about 6 months and see how it's going. Sound good?
Great, Rich. Thanks very much for the invite, Rich. And we would love to come back again.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, folks, that's it for the Rich Report. Stay tuned for more news and information on high-performance computing.